Chris Hensley is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member of FINRA SIPC, investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Houston First Financial Group are not affiliated.
The Houston Midtown chapter of the Society for Financial Awareness presents Money Matters with your host, Christopher Hensley.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to KPFT Houston. I'm Chris Hensley. The time is now 10 a.m. Got a great show lined up for you today. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, there is an estimate when it comes to food waste that about 30 to 40% of the food supply is wasted by restaurants throwing food right into the garbage. Our guest today is Barbara Heitman Bronstein. She is the founder of Second Servings of Houston. So we will do a deep dive into this organization and find out what they are doing to combat or fight this problem. So please stay tuned. Keep listening. If you are a longtime listener, you know that we always use the first few minutes of the show to just tell you a little bit about what's going on in the Houston and the Gulf Coast region when it comes to financial literacy. So you've heard me talk about Houston Money Week in the past. You know that April is National Financial Literacy Month. Here we are in August, and I'm already starting to talk about Financial Literacy Month again. The reason for that is that Houston Money Week, which I am part of the leadership team on, is going to meet next Tuesday to go ahead and get a start on planning Houston Money Week 2018. So for one thing, I wanted to just encourage people, if you don't know what Houston Money Week is, it is an initiative by nonprofits, for-profits, local government, city government, that all get together to promote financial literacy. So we bring financial literacy free seminars, free workshops, tax preparation, things like that to people of low, moderate income, really all across the board, people who want or need financial literacy information and advice. This is all brought to people free of charge, no cost. And to find out more about Houston Money Week and the Houston Money Week Initiative, you can visit houstonmoneyweek.org. If you are interested in getting involved, it is the time to do that. The leadership team is already starting to meet. If you want to find out more, you can contact us and we will invite you out to one of our monthly meetings as we work very hard to get ready for April of 2018. Separate from that, in September next month, I do have a talk out at Subsea Engineering, and it's going to be focused on retirement planning. Now, this one is not open to the public, but it is free, and it is open to any employees of Subsea Engineering. So if you know anybody who works for that organization who has questions when it comes to retirement, roadblocks, kind of the common traps that people fall into when they're not focused on getting prepared for retirement, they can attend that. With that, let's go ahead and get Barbara on the mic here. Barbara, how are you doing?
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing great. And you are live here in the studio because you are here in Houston. A lot of times we have guests from outside of the Houston area. I love having people here in the studio. The energy is always much better when you're actually looking at the person. So, so thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. So I always kind of start the show the same way. I'll usually share your bio with listeners so that they can get to know you just a little bit better. And now you are the founder of Second Servings of Houston. You were raised in New York and has called Houston home for over 30 years. You graduated from Tufts University before earning an MBA in marketing from New York University. And after a successful career marketing some of America's leading brands for Unilever, Mars, Coca-Cola, you piloted a banquet food rescue program known as Banquet Bounty for the hungry. And that would later become known as Second Servings of Houston. So tell us a little bit. Let's start with, well, before we go down that road, tell me a little bit more about yourself, maybe outside of the bio, so we can get to know you just a little bit better.
Well, these days I'm working like a dog.
Yes.
As a volunteer, much to my husband's chagrin. But I'm trying to make time for some exercise and little short vacations here and there during the summer, which is a good time to find other places than Houston to vacation in.
Absolutely. It's Houston. We have one. If you're outside of the Gulf Coast region and you're listening to this, we have some of the hottest summers, somewhere between really, really rainy and really, really hot. So this is a perfect time to go on vacations. A lot of time people go out of town. Well, let's dive right into it. What is Second Servings of Houston?
Second Servings is Houston's only prepared food rescue organization, and what that is an organization, a nonprofit, that picks up excess prepared food from caterers, business cafeterias, sports venues, manufacturers, retailers, food distributors, and other regulated food businesses, and we deliver it promptly and safely to approved charitable meal sites, soup kitchens, shelters, low-income housing, and other community organizations.
So this sounds like something that you obviously you started this right in the bio. You mentioned that it had come out of a different project that you were working on. Why did you start this organization?
Well, it kind of grew and grew unexpectedly. What happened was in 2013, I went to a charity luncheon where there were a lot of no-shows that day. And I was going to another one. I go to two usually a year. And the other one was scheduled for the following month. And in between, I called the food bank to see if they would pick up the unserved food, because I knew it was paid for and in the kitchen. So the food bank didn't handle prepared food, they told me, but they referred me to one of their charity partners known as Impact Houston, which had a refrigerated truck and a soup kitchen outside of downtown. And that's how I got started. I was just a middleman making arrangements with a banquet sponsor and with Impact Houston. Go here on thus and such night and pick up the food. I knew none of the food safety rules at that point. I had no idea. And I did that for a year and then realized that there's a lot of food out there. And I did a lot of research and found out that it's called food rescue or food recovery. I had no idea it was going on in all parts of the country, from small cities to large, in different ways. And I decided that I would give it a try, because there's so much food going to waste, I recognized. And my research showed that Houston is among the worst in the country for people facing food insecurity. Nationally, it's 1 out of every 7 people. In Texas, it's 1 out of every 6. In Houston, it's 1 out of every 5. And even and the rate for children is among the worst. 1 out of every 4 children face food insecurity. And what food insecurity is, it's not what some people call hunger. It's just uncertainty about having adequate food. Where your next meal is coming from is not known. So I sought the advice of experts in the food industry, in the social service area. I got certified in safe food handling, and I recruited the chief sanitarian of the health department to be on my advisory board so we could do everything that kept the food safe and people fed.
So that's quite a bit there. It went from working this opportunity where you're working with Food Bank and Impact Houston, where there was leftover food. Obviously, I mean, I think people intuitively know that many of these restaurants, Houston's one of the biggest cities that have restaurants, food is like a hobby for us. It's like a passion. But with that comes all of this waste. And then also you talked about just the idea of food insecurity, people not knowing where their next meal is coming from. You also mentioned things that we might not think about when we're thinking about saving the food and getting rid of waste. We might not think about food safety, making sure that the food's handled properly and correctly. These were all things that you had to learn as you kind of dove into this feet first, it sounds like, and learned about this. But you mentioned that the things that you didn't know, that you went out and got experts like the person from the public health department and brought them on board into the advisory committees. So one of my questions is who is involved in this? Because many of the nonprofits, maybe it's volunteers, maybe there's board members. Who is involved in this?
We have a variety of people involved. We have a big volunteer base. We have the support of some corporations, and I'm a volunteer, but I have a few staff people. I started with strictly volunteers, and we have a lot of dedicated daytime as well as weekend support. But we don't rely entirely on volunteers because we need to be seen as the reliable, dependable resource for the food donors that we pick up from. When we say we're going to come, we're going to come. And volunteers are usually dependable, but sometimes we things come up and get in the way. So we chose a model from across the country that we felt would deliver the kind of reliability that we wanted to practice. Food rescue across the country comes in a lot of different flavors, from volunteers on bicycles collecting food from small restaurants to refrigerated trucks with paid drivers. And we follow more that institutional approach of paid drivers and refrigerated vehicles. But something you said, Chris, was interesting. You reflected what a lot of people think about, and that is that restaurants have a lot of waste. Actually, if you think about going to a restaurant, a typical restaurant, white tablecloth, they're cooking to order. So they generally don't have a lot of food left over unless they're a barbecue restaurant or a cafeteria-style restaurant, or with a buffet. So we rely more heavily on business cafeterias, hotels, caterers, food distributors. Perhaps there's a load that is coming close to code date, and the retailer that they distribute to won't take it because they want to guarantee their consumer a longer shelf life. So we will take that. And speaking of shelf lives, if you've ever been confused by the package dates, the sell by, the best by, the use by, that's an interesting dilemma that causes 91% of Americans to throw away food before it's really unsafe to eat. And that's a big source of food waste. We don't pay close attention to code dates in most cases because it doesn't mean that the food is not safe to eat. The only, and your listeners might find this interesting, the only thing that's federally mandated to carry a date in the supermarket is infant formula. The only thing. Not meat, not milk, not eggs. Those are driven by the manufacturer who puts the date on the package to aid the retailer in shelf rotation as well as guide the consumer to when they think the best quality experience will be.
Wow, I did not know that, and we've had several. We've approached the expiration dates from the consumer finance side of how long do you have to live before you throw something out. It's the first time that I've heard that only the infant formula that it's federally mandated. So interesting. A couple of things I wanted to get a little bit more information about here. Maybe some of the mechanics of the. You talked about food insecurity, and people not knowing where their next meal is coming from. Sometimes when people get prepared food, they're getting food, but it may not be the healthiest thing for them. Is dietary guidelines and that sort of thing taken into consideration?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because Snap Kitchen is one of our most generous donors every day. And for those listeners who are not familiar with Snap Kitchen, it's a healthy meals to go, cooked with local ingredients and no white flour, very healthy with all the nutritional labeling. And those are individual meals that we generally deliver to low-income housing units, such as New Hope Housing. They have a person who is trained to receive the food and distribute it twice a day to their residents. And we've done research amongst the residents who are receiving the food, and they are very health concerned, and they felt that these meals are helping them to accomplish their desire to eat healthier, and certainly make it affordable by having it be free.
Right. Free is always good.
Free is good.
Well, definitely. You alluded to something earlier, because one of the things you had originally started in the direction with Food Bank. I know here in Houston, a lot of people recognize the name Food Bank. What makes your organization different than a group like Food Bank?
I'm very glad you asked, because there is that confusion. The Food Bank concentrates their efforts on food pantries that generally handle mostly dry goods and with limited hours, but they reach individuals. Our focus is on smaller charities that are serving groups of people, such as a soup kitchen that is serving large numbers of people each day. We also deliver to residential homeless shelters. They could be group houses or places like the Center, which has been around since the 1950s. And the Center is a residential and day program for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's a nonprofit, so whatever money they can save in their budget by relying on our food is more money they have to spend to that they can spend on their residents. And we work closely with the Center. We work closely with soup kitchens and other residential rehab programs, such as Salvation Army Sally's House. So we focus on charities that are generally addressing group residential needs.
So it sounded like there was when you talked about the organization itself and how it's comprised, there's volunteers, you've got some support from some corporations out there, you do have people on staff, and I imagine the process that you described, we're not Austin or Seattle where you could bike this stuff around. Houston, major metropolitan city, the idea of you probably need a set of trucks and all of this stuff. How describe to me a little bit about that process. If somebody wanted to become involved, where would they fit in that puzzle?
Okay, yes. Last September we formed the Food Rescue Squad, which is composed of volunteers who come out either in the evenings during the week or on the weekends to prearranged food rescues from special events. We've done the Gumbo Smackdown. We've done the morning after brunch event. We've done Taste of the Nation, which this is kind of interesting, Chris. Taste of the Nation is a benefit for children's hunger, and it benefits the Houston Food Bank, gearing toward children's needs. And we have a food rescue squad that will come out, and that's coming up in September 19th. They will rescue the food from the chef event that's being held at Silver Street Studios, and they will round up the food and will load the truck. Well, we deliver the food to recipients that are also recipients of the food bank. So the food bank wins because they get the money from the charity event, the beneficiary. Their recipients win because they get the food through second servings. And it's a great event, and Cisco has traditionally been the lead sponsor, and Cisco has been a wonderful supporter of second servings. They recently, and I hadn't announced this until now, but now it's public, they have funded us for another refrigerated vehicle. So that will double our capacity right now. And we also extend our pickups through relying on some of our charity recipients who have access to transportation to go pick up assigned pickups. So we were doing pickups even before we had our own vehicles. As far as volunteers during the day, if someone wanted to join us, they would ride in the second seat of our refrigerated van and help rescue food and deliver it to some of our 29 different charity recipient sites.
Wow, that's a lot of sites to distribute the food to.
Well, we don't go to everyone every day, but we call on 29 sites, and we have some groups of volunteers that help on the weekends. We rescue from the farmers market every Saturday morning. Gunderman Farms and Atkinson's Dos Brizos are some of our big donors at the large East Side farmers market that Urban Harvest runs. So we do rely on volunteers to assist us, and they're a vital part of our organization. They're very dedicated, and one of the things that one of the volunteers told me is so different about volunteering with Second Servings is that she sees the immediate she gets immediate gratification from seeing the food going from one source and ending in the hands of a resource like a soup kitchen that will be feeding people who are waiting for a meal sitting on the street when we deliver.
Right now. They're waiting for that meal right now.
Right. At Loaves and Fishes, they've already lined up, and that meal will be served at 11 o'clock.
Wow.
And Loaves and Fishes has received a lot of food from us, and they have been a great charity to work with. And they've been able to expand the number of meals they serve. Not only the number of people, but they expanded from only lunches and 2 breakfasts to several dinners during the week.
Wow.
So people who are in need can rely on Loaves and Fishes for a free meal, no questions asked.
Well, I know if you are food insecure and you don't know where your next meal's coming from, dry goods, you'll take whatever you can get. But there's a couple things that you said that I really like. The idea that you're getting some produce from the farmers market. For the fresher things you think of less preserved. These are things that are fresh now. And so it just sounds like I'm kind of a health nut. I like the idea of actually having something that's a little bit better. Some options out there.
Speaking of better, the catered food is incredible because several of our caterers cater upscale events, and they can't afford to run out. Right. When they cater an event, so we get the surplus, such as pistachio crusted chicken, lamb meatballs, beef tenderloin kebabs, and then we get the special treat things such as we got 2,500 cheeseburger sliders from a hotel that was housing the Super Bowl opposing team, and that went to 7 different charity sites.
Wow.
And that was a very popular item.
I can imagine after getting who knows, and then you get something like that. Now, you told me you shared a story that one of the volunteers have told you. Do you have a personal story of a time that you can think of where you've seen this make a difference in somebody's life?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because there is one story that comes to mind immediately, and that was delivering food to one of the charity sites, Magnificent House, and we made a delivery of some holiday catered food, and it included paella. among other specialties. And I said to Tyrone, here's paella, here's what it is, and you need to try it. It's really quite good. So the next day, this fellow who doesn't smile much, I asked him, Tyrone, did you get to try the paella? And he grinned ear to ear, and he said, yes, ma'am, I had thirds. So, that's very gratifying. So not only are we providing food, but we're providing good food, and food that is not the standard dry goods, mac and cheese and rice and beans that is typical of a shelter or soup kitchen. So, and the thing about the produce, when I introduced second servings this morning, I said it was prepared food. After working with our charities, they were all clamoring for fresh produce. They don't get much, and when they do get it, it's really usually on its last leg. So we like to get to know our charities and their preferences, and we have sought out fresh produce as often as we can, and we expect to be getting a lot more in the future because that's where the real need is. They want fresh produce, they need fresh produce, and we want to bring it to them.
So that's huge. So I know as KPFD is volunteer driven, and I'm involved with the nonprofit organizations, so people can always help by giving their time. Money is always good. If you
money is very
good
because we have to fuel our van.
Exactly.
It doesn't take much, but because we have a small geography that we deliver, generally speaking, and we're expanding, but we need money for staff expansion and transportation and supplies.
So those are give me's, because working with nonprofits, I know money and time are huge, and both of them are very much needed by any organization out there. But in addition to that, Houstonians who find out about this program and they didn't know about it and they want to help, what kind of introductions? Are there certain restaurants, grocery stores, shelters that what kind of help would you want from Houstonians in that direction?
It would be great if people could steer business cafeterias that they may work at, and hotels if they're working for a caterer, or a restaurant that does catering or buffets. If they could steer them to us, because we're always on the lookout for more food donors. Next time you're in the grocery store, ask the produce manager what happens to the fruits and vegetables that are culled out off the shelf. That's a huge source of produce for us, and that's the next frontier.
I would throw out there that if more people knew about this program, they would let you know. That everybody probably, if at the workplace, they might have a business cafeteria. They might have friends, family members who know people who work in the hotel industry. The caterers, Houston's, again, we said one of the food capitals. So food is a hobby for us here. I know you know someone like this if you're listening, and even the grocery stores with the fresh produce and that sort of thing. So introducing you to them that could be tremendous, and I think a lot of it, like most nonprofits out there, this is a resource that's two-sided that people just need to know more about. I can't believe we're almost right here at the end of the show, and I always ask, is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to let listeners know about?
I'd like to dispel a myth that is out there as far as liability, because businesses and in particular are always concerned about getting sued. What if someone gets sick from the food? Well, I can reassure you that food donors who donate in good faith to or through a nonprofit like Second Servings are protected by the Good Samaritan laws. They've never been challenged. They've been on the books in Texas since 1981 and federally since 1996. So if you hear that from a potential donor who says they don't want to get sued, that's unfortunately a misperception, and we can turn that around.
We are in a highly litigious society out there, and so if those myths, they'll get in the back of people's head. It's great to dispel that and let people know right away, don't throw that stuff away. There is a second serving for it. If you want to find out more about Second Servings of Houston, you can go to secondservinghouston.org. If you're listening to the podcast version, you'll find some information about the organization as well as a link in the podcast notes. We are right here at the end of the show. Anything else you want to tell listeners?
Well, it's amazing how beneficial food rescue can be to the donor sites. The kitchen workers hate throwing away good food that could be repurposed to feed people in need, and so it's a morale boost that a lot of times potential donors don't realize. But I hear this over and over again from our donors who see that people are responding and enjoying helping their community right from their workplace.
You would think that would be much better than throwing it in the garbage, and it'll make you feel good to help. And Barbara, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Money Matters Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, visit us on the web at www.moneymatterspodcast.com. Drop us a line on SpeakPipe on the right-hand corner. It will receive any voicemails, questions, thoughts, concerns that you have about the show. In addition to this, we recently launched a Patreon campaign. Click on the Donate Now tab to hit the tip jar and find out what Patreon's campaign is all about.